Saw the outfit from Lil Wayne. What you got on today? What you got on?
This shit when I yearn, you know, this good motion, the only motion.
Welcome back to another Zay the Alchemist video. Today, if you didn't watch the last video, it's about time to take my hair out. But if you didn't watch the last video, I told you I was going to do a part 2. I was going to come back. I finished part 1 of addiction. And I told you I was going to give y'all part 2 of addiction. So today is a new day. You see the lights out. Today we got a very good, lengthy video for you guys. Last video is a good 26 minutes long. I'm going to try to push this one to be 20. And let's get right straight into it. So in the last part we left off, the last thing in the last video we talked about is addiction a disease? Now we're going to lead on with that, and then we are going to go on. We're going to talk about is addiction a disease, and then we're going to see what factors contribute to the development of addiction. So, as y'all know from last video, we went over is addiction a disease. Now we're gonna talk more about it on the scale. I'm gonna read some things off to you guys, and I'm gonna talk to you guys about it. So, is addiction a disease? Humans are biologically motivated to seek rewards. So that means when you go to work, you make money, and when they say rewards, it's more of the feeling your body gives you. Most of the things I teach, trauma, anxiety, addiction, these are all things that your body produces, if you're conscious of it, if you're not conscious of it. But often these rewards come from healthy behaviors. When you spend time with a loved one or eat a delicious meal, your body releases a chemical called dopamine. Like I said last video, this is what your body wants. This is how your body creates addictions. It's from dopamine, which feels pleasure. It becomes a cycle. You seek out these experiences because they reward you with good feelings. So basically, as I said last video, this is kind of basically a brief summary of what is addiction disease. It's more of a chemical disease, like they're saying, that it's more of a chemical disease for your brain. Excuse me, that your brain likes to have that same dopamine rush every day or once in a while. So yes, it's a disease, but I see it more as a mental disease. Next part I want to talk to you guys about is the factors that contribute to the development of addiction. So basically, these are the things that lead up to addiction, or what causes an addiction, or how liable are you to have an addiction. There's different type of ins and outs you can look at it, but the first one that I want to talk about with y'all is genetics. So like I said in the last video, addiction kind of runs in my family to an extent. So when it comes to genetics, you have to understand that everything that the people above you have done, like your grandma, your grandpa, your mom, your dad, leads down to you. So if your mom grew up watching her mom being beat, your mom has a higher chance, if she doesn't understand it, heal from it, and learn from it in a mental perspective, she has a higher chance of meeting somebody else that will beat her. That's how it works. You are what you attract. If you see that type of behavior, you have a higher chance of connecting with that behavior again. So addiction can start off with genetics. It can be passed down from a family, generation to generation. Like I said earlier, addiction runs in my family. So my genetics can lead me down a road of an addiction if I allow it to. But I want to read to you guys what scientists have studied and what the higher ups have studied about what genetic does to addiction. So, studies show that genetic factors are responsible for 40% to 60% of the vulnerability to an SUD, which is, you feel me I'm saying, which is addiction. If you have the first degree relative with a substance abuse disorder, you're more likely to develop one. Scientists are working to locate specific genes that may contribute to these vulnerabilities. So, like I said earlier, if your mom has a drug issue, you have 40%, which is, as the scientists say, 40% to 60% chance of having those same exact addictive traits. That doesn't mean you will have them, but you have a higher chance of having those addictive traits, which just means that maybe you personally might not be an addict, but you still have a higher chance of having addict tendencies. Next part I want to talk about that can lead to addiction is your mental health conditions, which basically means there's a strong link between your mental health and your addiction conditions. So if you have a bad mental health, that you're very sad a lot, that you go through a lot, that you feel a lot, that your mental is not that strong, you have a higher chance of being addicted, to having addictions. If you have depression, PTSD, bipolar disorder, those can lead to addiction. About half of the people, well, what it says is about half of the people who experience a mental health condition will also experience a substance disorder and vice versa. So basically, if people use substances to handle depression, anxiety, PTSD, which can lead down a road of an addiction, because you are more prone to like have something that can give you that free time away from whatever you are feeling for the day, whatever you went through for the day. So if you have like depression, PTSD, bipolar disorder, you are more likely, or you have a chance of getting an addiction. Just by you having another mental issue, you can create another mental issue. That's why having a strong mind is very, very, very important. Because as you see, these things rule our life on a daily basis. And addiction is like, I don't ever want to see anybody close to me having addiction, because this is the stuff I study. This is the stuff I teach the viewer. So it all is like a triple effect. If the day was bad, you have a chance to drink. As I did last video, we used alcohol as a example for addiction. So say you have a stressful day at work, or you got fired from work, you have a higher chance of being depressed, which would lead you to go drink. Or you would tell a friend that what happened today at work, and they would be like, do you want to come over and drink? These can lead down to addiction because it is producing dopamine. This is what this all leads down. Addiction is created by dopamine. For real. Addiction is created from the chemical bonds of dopamine. Number 2, what we're going to talk about is environmental factors. So say you grew up in a house where or you're still growing up in a house where people are drinking and smoking. You have a higher chance of catching those addictive habits than if you don't. If you do it by yourself. Why? Because this is what you are foreign to. This is what you are used to. This is what you are common with. You might be foreign to it. Foreign means different. You might be foreign to it, and that's what leads you to try something different. But that doesn't mean trying something new is always the best thing. That's why I say it's factors that plays into addiction. If you go up in an environment where you just seen your dad drink so much, you have a higher tendency of catching those same habits as your dad has done. If your dad gambles, you have a higher chance of gambling, just like your dad has done. These are all tendencies that lead down to you. This is why me personally, I pay attention to my family line and what they do and what they have done. Me personally, I got smart with it. I'm like the chosen one. So I see that, okay, these habits have been repeated. Let's switch it around, change how I am as a person so these habits don't be repeated. Everything is a cycle. If you pay attention to life, everything is a cycle. I understand life, I understand psychology, and I understand everything is a cycle. So if you let your environment, my thing that I love to say is, I am not a product of my environment. My environment is a product of me. I produce my environment. I make my environment. And anybody that you see me be around, anybody can tell you, they would never tell you I have an addiction to anything in 2024. Because my environment is a product of me. You can never let your environment be a product of you. If you see people robbing people, that doesn't mean you should rob people too. That's all the simple facts of it. Yes, your environment does play a role. It's a lot of big things that play a role when it comes down to an addiction. But your environment has to be key. If you grew up in a bad home, you have to stay educated or stay strong-minded. And for you to be strong-minded, you have to stay educated, which is nothing's wrong with that. But stay educated on these things in life, because you might one day accidentally come across an addiction and you might know what it is. So your environment plays a big role on what you do in life. Next thing we're going to talk about is support groups. This is the last and final thing that I would say goes into the category of treating addiction. A support group. Everybody wants to feel like they are heard. Everybody wants to be around people that they share some common trait with. A support group can help in a lot of factors. I don't know how old most of my viewers are, but if you ever watch Fight Club, the main character of Fight Club goes to support groups. Most of the support groups he goes to, he doesn't deal with, or he does deal with, but he still goes to these support groups and still gives these time to these people. Support groups are, to some people, are very important. There never will be a bad thing about a support group. Next, we're going to talk about, and before I go to the next thing, it gives other people a way to feel like they are heard. It gives the opportunity of sharing their experiences. All around, a support group is a valid thing. I don't really know how to get into a support group because I never had to go to one, but I would feel like if you would ask your doctor, like if you go to your doctor and say you have this going on, he probably could show you into the right direction of a support group. Next, we're going to talk about, can I develop an addiction? And yes, you can. But the factor that you watch this video, either you have an addiction or you're trying to make sure you don't contract an addiction or start an addiction. Avoiding substances that have high addictive personalities or high addictive traits can help, but if you like drinking or if you like smoking and you know you have an addictive personality, what I would recommend to you, person to person, would be limit what you do and have a good eye on what you do, which that can help you to avoid catching an addiction. Especially with non-substance medicals, like over the counter prescriptions. Yes, you understand you can get that at any cost, but it's up to you or the factors I lined out to you to monitor what you understand. Next, on the topic of can I avoid addiction, is knowing your family. Same thing I said earlier. Knowing your family line is very, 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 very important, because I can understand if you are going to contract it faster or if you are not going to contract it faster. But knowing your family's history is very, very, very important, because you might not know your family history and nobody might not tell you your family history, and you might get, for example, you might get addicted to Xans. Later down the line, you find out that your grandma and your grandpa, or your grandma and your dad, were addicted to Xans. So you will have a higher chance of being addicted to that pill than the next person does, or you might not. but it's a higher chance from knowing your family that you have an addiction to those things. Managing stress. So the reason why most people start an addiction is from stress, anxiety, depression, other mental factors that I teach on this channel. With that being said, managing stress in a healthy way can stop an addiction. Most addictions start from stress. Most addictions start from the chemical bond that we call stress. Your body produces a chemical bond that makes you feel stressed. You have to feel anxious, anxiety, something that makes you feel stressed. If you can figure out a healthy way, which I'm gonna list off some ways personally that I have used, walking outside, looking at the sunset, reading a book, meditation, talking to friends, talking to a loved one. These are all healthy ways to manage stress. Taking 3 seconds out to breathe and breathe in, breathe out. Those are healthy ways to manage stress. What else can I say? For me, driving is a healthy way for me to manage stress. Driving gives me a sense of peace. Anything that brings you to a state of peace and you feel that you are present, that you are here in the moment, that your body doesn't feel stressed, is a good way that does not affect your body in a positive way. So drinking would be a negative way to manage stress. So I would say my 2 things that helped me manage stress was meditation, reading, and always being outside. Nature was a big thing that helped me manage stress because it's you have no choice but to be present on nature because you never know what will pop out of those woods. You go on a trail, you can see a snake, you can see a bear, you can see a raccoon, you can see something that kills you. You don't have time to be stressed because you have to stay present. So I feel like things that help you stay present are very, very, very vital to the things that you should do in life. So sorry it's getting late, but we're going to finish this up. The outlook of addiction. Basically, the outlook of addiction basically tells you the normal basics we've been going over. Friends, family can help you get the addiction treatment. But it also talks about the negatives. And the negatives in any person's life so far, right now, living in America, or however you're viewing this, could be your family members can help you, yes, but they might also, if the addiction leads so far that they don't want to talk to you anymore, it can lead to relatives not want to talk to you. It can lead to financial problems. You could have supportive friends and family or healthcare providers. Healthcare providers can help you too, in a sense, when it comes to battling your addiction. But the effects can last for generations. So if you do not beat your addiction and you have a kid, or you already have a kid and they see what you're doing, you could lead another generation of that addiction. Yes, it is possible. Yes, it happens. Yes, it is a thing. Next thing we're going to talk about, can you help someone with an addiction? Me personally, over the years, I've had friends that have been addicted to Xanax and other miscellaneous things that I'm not publicly want to speak on. It is very challenging and stressful, yes, but it's all up to that person. It's all up to that behavioral addiction. It's all up to that substance. Are you going to let that substance take over your life, or are you going to let that substance not take over your life? If a loved one reaches out to you and say, hey, you might have a problem, that's not a loved one saying anything bad about you. It's a loved one caring about you and wanting the best for you. So not everyone understands that, but for this video purposes, I've faced that. I've had a friend that that I'm still on speaking terms with that went through something like an addiction to pills, for example, pills. It took him all the way until he got to rehab to get off those pills and do better in life. Me personally, I helped that friend till the wheels fell off. I did whatever I could to show him the light and show him it's a better place to be in. But it took him into rehab. So yes, you can help someone, but to a certain extent, you should help someone, if that makes sense. Next thing, and the final thing we're going to speak on for this video of addiction and finish up addiction. To finish up addiction is, what are tips that can help you or a loved one? I'm going to name off some things, and we're going to end the video like that. I'm going to give my intro. So, number one is speaking up now rather than later. So, if you start, like I say, drinking, and you're starting to notice that you're drinking a lot, be that person to take accountability for themselves, to say something now than later. Say something before it becomes a problem. 2, practice empathy, which is them when you don't agree with your loved ones, listen thoughtfully to them The more your loved ones feel heard, the more they'll see you as someone they can trust. So what that basically means, I know I probably read that a little choppy, is be the person that knows they have a problem and talk to your loved ones. Don't argue with them. Talk to them. Understanding where they're come from. Because some loved ones, some people that really care about you want the best for you. They might not know what's best for you, but they want the best for you. So sometimes you have to sit there and listen to what they say. Be thoughtful of what they say. Be more understanding. If a loved one puts the time of day into telling you, hey, you might have a problem, might have an addiction, be like, understand what they're saying. See where they're coming from. Any person that tells you something isn't a bad person. Someone that is trying to take care of you, someone that is trying to help you, isn't at your hardest interest of choice. They're trying to make your life easier. 3, be patient. Always be patient with yourself when you're going through something, going through an addiction, trauma, anything. Always give yourself time to feel that emotion, time to understand, time to heal. Because most people, where they go wrong at is they will understand what the problem is. They will know what the problem is. They will see what the problem is, but they won't give themselves time to understand. Same goes with relationships. That is a different topic. That is not on ours, but same with relationships. And the last thing I'm going to say for this video is always take care of self. At the end of the day, no matter how much family you got, how much friends you got, if you got a partner, if you don't got a partner, remember, self is number one top priority. Always take care of self, because you never know the day when you really need to understand yourself and you can't understand yourself. So understanding self is very, very, very important. I would never talk down on anybody or say this person got this. Knowing what I know, knowing what I teach to the viewer, I would never talk down on a person that has an addiction. I will always want to first give knowledge. If the person that I'm talking to doesn't want to take that knowledge, that is not my problem. I understand people deal with things in different type of ways. But me, as a person, is I always do one good thing for somebody else a day. So if my thing for the day is I help you and you notice your addiction, we can understand it. You might not want to hear what I say. Sorry for the dog barking in the back. You might not want to hear what I say, but sometimes listening to somebody else's opinion will help you in the long run. And that concludes the last part of an addiction. Thank you for listening. Thank you for everybody. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. If you subscribe, you subscribe. If you like, you like. But thank you for listening. Thank you for even giving 15 seconds of the video the time of your day. It means a lot. Some people don't get to the end of the video from the stats I've seen. And that is okay. Everybody is different in their own way. But thank you for at least giving you as a person, the time to listen and understand what I am saying and what I am doing for humanity as a whole. So I would like to say thank you for everybody that's listening and catch you in the next video. Next video, if you watched last video, next video is going to be on anxiety. Anxiety will have a 2-part series just like this one, or a 2-part video just like this one. And yeah, just like that one. Everybody have a blessed and healthy day.
It's on the outfit from Lil Wayne. What you got on today? What you got on?
This shit right here, you know, this good motion, the only motion.